All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about one of the coolest and most powerful tools in math and computer science, mathematical induction. Honestly, it's the closest thing to having a logical superpower, so let's get into it.
So, it really all starts with this one kind of mind-bending question. How on earth can you prove that something is true not just for a handful of numbers, but for an infinite set of them? It sounds totally impossible, right? Well, induction is the key. The secret is to stop thinking about numbers and start thinking about dominoes. Imagine an infinitely long line of them. You don't have to go and push every single one, you just have to do two simple things. First, knock over the very first domino. And second, prove that if any given domino falls, it's guaranteed to knock over the one right after it. If you can do those two things, you've kicked off a chain reaction that will literally go on forever. And that, in a nutshell, is the logic we're going to master today.
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to walk through a perfect proof, just to see how it's done. Then, we'll play detective and uncover the 7 most common mistakes people make. After that, we'll level up with something called strong induction. And finally, we'll see how this all connects to the real world of computer algorithms.
Okay, let's start by building our gold standard, a totally flawless inductive proof. Once you see how it's supposed to work, it becomes way easier to spot when things are going off the rails.
We're going to prove a really famous formula, that if you add up all the whole numbers, from 1 all the way up to some number n, the answer is always equal to n times n plus 1 divided by 2. And we're not just going to show it works for a few numbers, we're going to prove it holds true forever.
And what's so cool here is how perfectly this maps back to our dominoes. Step 1, the base case, that's just us knocking over the first domino. We check if the formula works for our starting number, n equals 0. And yep, it does. Step 2, the inductive hypothesis, is where we make a little leap of faith. We just assume that the formula is true for some random domino down the line. We'll call it k. And then, in step 3, the inductive step, we use that assumption to prove that if domino k falls, then the very next one, k plus 1, has to fall too. And this right here, this is the magic moment. The second we prove that k falling guarantees k plus 1 will fall, we've created that unstoppable chain reaction. Our base case knocked over the first domino, and now we know that'll knock over the second, which will knock over the third, and on and on and on, all the way to infinity.
All right, so we've seen perfection. Now let's look at the 7 deadly sins. This is a rapid-fire tour of the most common mistakes that can make a whole proof come crashing down. Sin number 1, trying to add a statement to a number. Look, the proposition S of k, which is just a fancy way of saying the formula is true for k, is an idea. It's not a number. Trying to add it into an equation is like trying to add the color blue to the number 7. It just doesn't compute.
Oh, this is a big one. You can never, ever start your proof by assuming the thing you're trying to prove is true. That's just circular logic. The whole point is to use what you know about k as a tool to get to the conclusion about k plus 1. You start with the assumption and you work your way forward.
Your wording here is absolutely crucial. Look at the mistake on the left. It assumes the statement is true for all k. Well, if you assume it's true for all k, you've just assumed the very thing you were trying to prove. The correct way on the right is to assume it's true for one specific but arbitrary k. It's a subtle but massive difference.
You have to stay consistent. Think of it like a chain. If you set up your hypothesis with the variable n, you have to stick with n. If you suddenly swap in a k in the next step, you've broken the chain. Your argument doesn't connect anymore.
Here's another trap. You have to keep your steps clean and separate. The hypothesis is what you get to assume. The inductive step is what you have to prove. The mistake on the left just smushes them together, putting the conclusion right inside the assumption. You've got to keep them separate to have a valid proof.
Your base case has to be the actual starting line. If the claim is that something is true for all numbers greater than or equal to 0, then your first domino is number 0. If you start your proof at n equals 1, then you never knocked over that very first domino and the whole chain reaction never even begins.
And finally, sometimes it takes more than one domino to topple the next. Think about the Fibonacci sequence. Each number depends on the 2 before it. If your logic is like that, you can't just prove one base case. You have to prove 2 of them to give the chain enough momentum to get going. So, we've learned the rules, we've avoided the traps. Now, let's add an even more powerful technique to our arsenal, something called strong induction. The difference is all about what you get to assume. In simple, or weak induction, you only assume the statement is true for the one step right before, at k. But with strong induction, you get to make a much bigger assumption. You assume the statement is true for every single step from the very beginning all the way up to k. It's like assuming the whole line of dominoes up to k has already fallen. Now you might think a stronger assumption makes things harder, but it's actually the complete opposite. Because you get to assume so much more is true, you have a lot more ammo to work with. It often makes the proof surprisingly easier. Here's a perfect problem for it. Let's try to prove that any group of 12 or more students can be perfectly split into groups of 4 or 5. This is actually pretty tough with simple induction, but with strong induction, we just start by proving a few base cases manually. We show it works for 12 students, 13, 14, and 15. And here comes the beautiful part. To prove it works for our next number, n plus 1, we just say, okay, let's make one group of 4 students. What are we left with? N minus 3 students. And because of our strong hypothesis, we already know for a fact that the formula works for any number smaller than what we started with. So we know it works for n minus 3. The proof is done. It's that clean. So why do we care about all this theory? I mean, what's the point outside of a math class? Well, it turns out induction is the absolute bedrock for proving that computer programs, specifically recursive algorithms, actually work the way they're supposed to. A recursive algorithm is basically a piece of code that calls itself to solve smaller versions of the same problem. You can picture it like this binary tree, which is just built out of smaller binary trees. This structure is a perfect match for strong induction, because to prove the whole algorithm works, you get to assume all those smaller internal calls have already done their job correctly.
I mean, just look at this simple algorithm. It's got a base case, what to do when x equals 1, and it's got a recursive step, where it calls itself with a smaller input. This is induction, just written in code. The base case of the algorithm is the base case of the proof. The recursive step is the inductive step. If you want to formally prove this little piece of code works for every possible input, you'd use strong induction.
So you see, induction isn't just some abstract proof technique. It's a fundamental way of thinking. It's about seeing how you can take one small provable fact and one reliable rule and build an unbreakable chain of logic that extends to infinity. So the only question left is, what infinite chain are you going to prove next?